thanks for logging on to our YouTube page, everybody. We hope you're enjoying these segments, getting some great feedback out of you. We appreciate it. You know, during these tough times, it's very important to laugh. Are you with me? Are you with me? Have a sense of humor. It's very important. Get you through tough times sometimes. Speaking of laughs, well, they're not laughing at me. They're laughing at the candidates for this top 5 list. Lots of funny people on this one. Yeah, we practice social distancing, but this is another round of social distancing. All right, speaking of laughs, speaking of sense of humor, this top 5 list, how about this one? Your top 5 comedians of all time. That's a tough list. We're going to narrow it down to 5, but as we always do, we begin with your honorable mentions. First up, oh yeah, I got a million of them. We got Rodney Dangerfield. Got to have Rodney Dangerfield as our honorable mention. Kind of the godfather of stand-up comedians.
I mean, I don't got no respect from anyone.
Another honorable mention, a current guy, a guy that almost made my top 5, Jim Gaffigan. Took my daughter to see Jim Gaffigan. You know what? We're not going to take points away for profanity, but Jim Gaffigan's impressive. He can talk for hours and hours and not say one profane word. Jim Gaffigan, he can hit on a variety of subjects too, a very talented guy.
I've made an enormous mistake.
My last honorable mention, how about Richard Pryor? Now, Richard Pryor, a very important comic because he set the tone for a lot of future comedians, guys like Chris Rock, Eddie Murphy, really anybody who touched on sensitive subject matters.
What you taking my picture for? Who you gonna show it to? They say, I got a picture of Richard Pryor.
So Richard Pryor, Rodney, and Jim Gaffigan are honorable mentions. Let's get to our top 5. Number 5, boy, he almost rose up here. He was definitely going to be in my top 5, but Norm Macdonald. I love Norm Macdonald. Now, Norm Macdonald, a nice guy, seems to be really respected by a lot of comedians, but he says a lot of things that are very controversial, but he can get away with it by the way he says it. So his style has been unique throughout the years. I love Norm Macdonald. He's number 5.
ID, which I had to show it again. There's a strange abbreviation when you think about it. I is short for I. And then D is short for dentification.
Okay, number 4. Oh, love me some Frank Caliendo. The best impressionist ever. I'm sorry, Rich Little, but Frank Caliendo from John Gruden.
I like an angry quarterback. He's got a chip on his shoulder, man.
To John Madden.
Wait, you ever look at Ben Roethlisberger closely?
To Jim Rome.
It does not get any better than what just happened.
Frank Caliendo is money. He's our number 4 top comedian of all time. Now we're going into the top 3. Some really hard territory to get into. Number 3, Mr. Warmth himself. How about Don Rickles? Old school guy, but until the end of his life would play at Vegas, make fun of anybody.
Look at the front, they're old people, they don't know what the hell's going on. This guy's sitting there going,
Now Frank Sinatra kind of paved the way for Rickles earlier in his career, but he made the most of it. A great career for Don Rickles, Mr. Warmth, known for making fun of people, but making everybody laugh at the same time. Okay, now we go into our top 2. Number 2, I'm going old school again. How about the wild and crazy guy himself, Steve Martin? Steve Martin coming in at number 2. What I love about Steve Martin, he was so big back in the 70s and 80s, but he's really a Renaissance guy. He's written books, he can play instruments, really a introspective guy in a lot of ways, a well-rounded comedian, but I love his old school stuff, the rambling guy, the wild and crazy guy, Steve Martin at number 2.
In France, chapeau means hat. Rue means street. It's like those French have a different word for everything.
All right, number 1, we give you that drum roll, please. Really, this was a no-brainer for me. George Carlin. George Carlin is a guy, I know he got bitter late in his career, but really set the tone for so many comedians, kind of like Richard Pryor. You ask a lot of comedians who their role model was, they will say George Carlin, a guy who really kind of approached comedy different than most. I love his comparison between football and baseball.
Baseball is played on a diamond, in a park, the baseball park.
Football is played on a gridiron in a stadium, sometimes called Soldier Field or War Memorial Stadium.
Would describe animals in a lot of ways. was well-rounded, a funny guy in so many ways. So we had George Carlin, we had Steve Martin, we had Don Rickles, we had Frank Caliendo, and finally Norm Macdonald rounds out our top 5 comedians of all time. We'd love to get your input. Remember, subscribe to our neighborhood YouTube page, The Neighborhood, NABOR Hood. We'll keep these coming. Stay safe, everybody. We'll see you next time.